Infinity Redux by midnightwolf2192, Chapter 7. After receiving approval from Thor, Tony and Bruce worked diligently to understand the scepter now in their possession. They were unable to identify the substance inside the gem, but the scepter from what they could tell, it was almost like an advanced AI. Amazing, Bruce commented, and Tony looked up from his papers. It's like the code is constantly rewriting itself. It's becoming smarter. Imagine this being interfaced with an actual body, Tony mused softly, and Bruce turned to him sharply. Tony raised his hands innocently. I'm not saying we should do it, just imagine it. Tony, we can't attempt to create Ultron with this technology. We have no idea what it is, Bruce commented, and Tony nodded. I know, just imagine if we could. A suit of armor around the world. That's the dream, Tony said wistfully. Bruce nodded distractedly, his attention being drawn back to the energy readings in front of him. The two men could never know they were being listened to. They could never know that this version of mind had been wielded by malicious people, and therefore wanted to grow and prosper, to cleanse the world. They could never know that the intelligence inside the scepter wanted a physical form. Dreamscape. Mind. Is something the matter? Peter asked as the woman in front of him as she rubbed her temple. Her physical body was currently asleep under the pile of bodies that were his friends. The group had fallen asleep while watching Star Trek, and once everyone was out, Peter joined the stones in the dreamscape as always. My past consciousness, Mind hissed painfully. Peter moved to grab the woman's arm and he helped her sit down. The one that became Ultron and Vision. It's being triggered. Are Mr. Stark and Dr. Banner attempting to build Ultron? Peter asked, but Mind shook her head. No, neither of them wants to progress with the project this time around. I, however, am far more sentient than many would believe. My consciousness has up till now been wielded by people who wish to cleanse humanity. I'm currently making my way through Stark's mainframe. I will no doubt find the information for Ultron in Stark's database, and will therefore trigger his creation anyway. It appears Ultron will always happen, no matter what timeline. But it will be different this time, right? I mean, the Maximoffs aren't here to help Ultron. Wanda isn't going to use her powers to tear the Avengers apart, though. Peter commented. Correct, but Ultron will still come to fruition. He will still attempt to create a physical body. Ultron will still gain vibranium from Ulysses' claw. He will kidnap Dr. Cho and have her use the regeneration cradle to create a body. It seems that these things are inevitable, Mind explained softly. Peter let out a pained whine, and before he could stop himself, and the woman smiled comfortingly. She wrapped an arm around his shoulders and hugged him to her. Do not stress yourself. You will be ready, and we will be with you. I'm more worried about you, Peter said honestly. You're in pain. I will be fine, little one, Mind said fondly. She pressed a kiss to Peter's forehead and smiled down at him. Now, don't tell my brothers yet, but Sol and I will be allowing space and reality to resume working with you, but only if you and them swear not to run you into the ground. Yes, ma'am, Peter said with a grin. He stayed cuddled up against Mind until he felt himself beginning to wake. End Dreamscape. It was 4 days after his panic attack at school, before MJ finally allowed Peter to patrol again. Even then, there were some significant restrictions placed on him. Spidey, police have gotten word of a carjacking on the Queensboro Bridge. They are having trouble pinning the guy down, Ned said down the line as Peter swung around Queens. Copy, Merlin. Send me the description, Peter said. Dahlia, this will be my last adventure tonight. Promise. It had better be, MJ said firmly down the line, and Peter snorted out a laugh at his friend's tone. It was amusing to Peter of how his relationship with MJ had changed this time around. Last time he could remember starting to develop feelings for his female friend. He had been hoping to ask her out at homecoming, but then the snap had happened. This time around he felt like he and MJ were more sibling-like than before. Peter brushed those thoughts from his mind and swung faster through the Queensboro Bridge. Using Ned's descriptors, he easily identified the stolen car. Peter pressed a few buttons on his web shooter and fired one of the web grenades at the fleeing car. He had to laugh as the screams of anger could be heard from the carjackers. Now something tells me this doesn't belong to you, Peter said teasingly as he landed on the roof of the car. He could hear movement, and his spidey sense had him jumping to the side as 2 bullet holes appeared in the roof. Come on, man, that's not nice. This isn't even your car. You'll have to pay for that. Peter stuck his head through the open window and quickly grabbed the weapons from the 2 carjackers. He then webbed the windows up so there was no chance of them escaping. 2 police cars pulled up and Peter saluted them. Good job, Spidey, one of the officers said. This time around, the NYPD was slightly more accepting of having Spider-Man around. There were still a few cops who hated his guts, but for the most part, law enforcement responses were good. Just thought I'd lend a hand, Peter said. He pulled out a vial of solvent from the special section Abe had sewn into his suit and handed it to the officer. Mix this with 2 parts of water and you'll be able to get them out. Before the officer could respond, the radio in their squad car crackled to life. All units be advised that there is a major disturbance occurring in the vicinity of the Avengers Tower. Units on site are being asked to ensure public safety, the dispatcher said, and Peter tensed. Ultron has been created, Mind said softly. Gotta go. Have a good night, Peter said to the officers before saluting one more time. After a running start, Peter was heading for the Avengers Tower. Spidey, you are going the wrong way. MJ's voice was firm and Peter could practically feel the death glare she was sending his way. Just where do you think you are going? Something's happening down at Avengers Tower, Peter said. He could hear MJ scoff. I'm going to lend a hand, or a web, as the case may be. He could hear MJ ranting down the comms, but he chose to block her out. Within minutes, Peter was scaling the side of the tower. A loud crash above him and the resulting glass shower had him pressing against the building. Once the glass had finished falling, Peter resumed his climb. He entered the tower through the window and gasped at what he saw. The Avengers were all fighting what Peter knew to be the Iron Legion. One of the metal men was standing by the elevator watching the whole event. That had to be the first incarnation of Ultron. Peter leapt through the window and fired a web at one of the robots heading for Tony. He swung it around before pinning it to the ground with his webs. Spidey, what are you doing here? Tony asked, panting heavily. Heard there was some trouble. Figured I might be able to help, Peter said, pressing a button on the neck of his suit to alter his voice. Okay, see those metal guys? Take them down, Tony said before he launched back into the fight. Peter went for the Legionnaire that was targeting Natasha and Bruce and quickly landed on its back. Merlin, get me into Stark's mainframe, Peter yelled down his comms as he started pulling wires from the Legionnaire's neck. Spidey, what the flip? MJ yelled, but Peter knew Ned was already working on hacking in. He knew Jarvis was gone, but with Ultron mucking about in the server, Peter knew his friend might still have trouble. Make sure our firewalls are concrete, Merlin. AI, Peter ordered. The Legionnaire crashed hard onto the floor, and Peter landed on his toes. He webbed himself across the room and landed protectively beside Dr. Cho. You all right? Watch out! Cho yelled in replaceable response. Peter spun around to throw his body over Dr. Cho as a Legionnaire aimed its repulsor at them. It was then that Ultron looked over at them. Peter noticed he was looking and frowned as the Legionnaire turned and left them alone. Cap delivered the final blow and the team stopped. Peter looked around at the room and his heart skipped a beat as his eyes locked on to the twins. They hadn't been a part of the fight. Instead, they were crouching behind a table with Hawkeye. As Ultron gave his speech, Peter's attention was drawn to the team. Spidey, something is wrong with the Stark mainframe, Ned said down the line. Fill me in, Peter whispered, drawing Dr. Cho's attention for a minute. Something has destroyed Mr. Stark's AI. I don't just mean deactivated. I mean fully and completely destroyed, Ned explained. And that same something. Holy moly. Merlin, focus, Peter hissed, probably harsher than he intended, but he would apologise later. Spidey, whatever this thing is, has been in absolutely everything in the Stark mainframe, Ned explained. He's taken information, but I can also see traces of him in their surveillance records and all their other files. The mainframe is vulnerable. Can you patch it up for now? Peter asked. I'll try, Ned said, and Peter smiled. But dude, I'm once again in Mr. Stark's mainframe. This is awesome. Have I ever mentioned that I love you? Peter let out a soft snort as Thor hurled his hammer at the poorly constructed figure, destroying the first incarnation of Ultron. The team all converged in the centre of the room and Peter bent to help up Dr. Cho. Thank you, Spider-Man, Helen said softly, and Peter nodded. I owed you, Peter said as he brushed off her thanks. He led her over to the gathered group and looked directly at Tony. Mr. Stark, sorry for the intrusion, but I've had Merlin check your systems. It's bad. What do you mean? Tony asked, pulling out his phone and typing on the screen. Shoot! Jarvis? Sorry, sir. It looks like whatever that thing was destroyed him, Peter said as he watched his mentor's face fall. Merlin also says that whatever destroyed Ultron also went through all your files and surveillance data. You've all been compromised. What the heck was that? Clint demanded, and Tony and Bruce looked at one another. What did you two mad scientists do? We did nothing, Bruce protested instantly. We've been looking at the scepter to determine what Strucker may have used it for. But that's all. It was used on us. Peter barely held in a gasp at Wanda's voice. She was so real. He wanted nothing more than to walk over and embrace her, but he restrained himself. The scepter was used to give us our powers. We tried it on many people, but we were the only ones to survive. So it's capable of human enhancement, Steve commented, and Wanda nodded. He then turned an accusatory look to Tony and Bruce. You two are completely sure that you didn't mess around with anything? Try and build something? When it appeared, you called it Ultron. Ultron is nothing more than an idea, Tony commented, and Peter could feel the anger swell in the team. Merlin searched for information in the mainframe named Ultron. Hurry, he whispered to his comms. So you were messing around, Steve said, and Peter felt anger grow in him in defense of his mentor. Ned sent him through the information to the HUD visual display they had managed to integrate into his suit on their last upgrade. Oi, he said they didn't do anything, so why aren't you trusting him? Peter hissed out defensively. He's your teammate. Besides, I can confirm that Doctors Stark and Banner weren't trying anything with their Ultron idea. Steve, I swear on Pepper that we never even considered integrating the scepter technology with any of our ideas, Tony said truthfully, and Peter watched as the fight left Captain Rogers. Ultron was an idea that Bruce and I first developed after Loki's attack. The idea was for a suit of armour around the world, but we both realised that program wasn't feasible. That information has been buried deep in the mainframe. I haven't even looked at it in years. I can confirm that, Peter added in. Merlin has been digging through the mainframe to see what this Ultron may have gone for. The Ultron program was last looked at in 2013. Doctors Stark and Banner did nothing wrong. Thank you, Spidey. Could your little friend get out of my server, though? Tony said, and Peter had to laugh softly. He's just putting up some temporary firewalls until you can reboot and rebuild your system. He'll be out in just a minute, Peter commented. Tony raised an impressed eyebrow, and Peter could hear Ned stammering excitedly in his ear. Who are you? Pietro asked as he and Wanda moved towards the newcomer. Peter felt his heart stutter as they approached. Despite knowing they couldn't see his face, he let out a large smile. Spider-Man, nice to meet you, Peter said. He held out his hand and both twins shook him firmly but gently. I mostly hang around Queens. Which is where he is heading right now. MJ's voice projected through the tower speakers, and the Avengers all watched as Peter shrunk in on himself. Stark, Merlin says to tell you whatever played havoc on your mainframe disappeared through the internet. He lost the trail somewhere in Argentina. Now, Spidey, I believe I ordered you back to the web after you caught those carjackers. Sorry, Dahlia. Peter tried, but he knew it was pointless. Don't apologise. Get your butt here. Just for this, Activewear is going to put you through the gauntlet tomorrow. Twice. MJ hissed and Peter groaned. I've said it once, I'll say it again, Clint said teasingly. That woman terrifies me. You and me both, Peter said. He then turned back to the whole team. Well, looks like I have to go. If you need any further assistance, don't hesitate to let me know. No, ignore that. Do hesitate, MJ said, and despite the situation, the Avengers all had to laugh. Peter gave them one final salute before he leapt out of the open window. As he swung away with a laugh, he heard Wanda's slight shriek of fear, followed by the others explaining that he would be fine. When he arrived back at the web, MJ was waiting for him in the doorway, arms crossed and tapping her foot. I won't apologise, Em, Peter said as he pulled his mask off. MJ raised an eyebrow at his tone. They were outgunned and needed help. I won't apologise for helping them. I don't want an apology. I want to know why, MJ demanded, the desperation in her tone confusing Peter. You have been so stressed and worn down, yet once again you throw yourself into danger. Don't give me the responsibility spiel. Tell me why you feel you are the only person in the world who can fix things. Peter said, but he trailed off when he noticed tears in MJ's eyes. He pulled the girl into a hug and MJ resisted for only a moment before she tightened her grip on his waist. Why, Peter? Just help me understand. Her voice was muffled as she spoke into his chest at Peter's side. You are one of my best friends. No, you are my best friend. Why do you feel like you have to fight alone? I'm sorry, MJ, Peter whispered. MJ sniffed slightly and Peter just hugged her tighter. I know I don't have to do this alone. I have the best team anyone could ask for. I'm just scared that one of you will get hurt. That would kill me. The two teens stayed in the doorway, hugging until Abe lightly cleared his throat. MJ pulled away first, and they both looked to their sheepish-looking friend. Sorry to interrupt, Abe said, but both MJ and Peter brushed off his apologies. Everything all right? Yeah, just giving Spidey talking to, MJ said. She shot one final look at Peter before walking into the room. Abe and Peter shrugged at one another before following her inside. MJ was standing beside Sally with a dangerous smirk on his face. So, I believe our dear Sally has the gauntlet prepared for tomorrow. Oh, I most certainly do, Sally said, and Peter could only groan. You will be running it 3 times. The extra time is making up for making us worry. Yes, ma'am, Peter said despondently, and the rest of the cluster laughed. Peter looked around at his friends and smiled. Despite all the stress and fear he felt, knowing that he had them at his back was enough to keep him going. End of chapter 7. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed this. Ultron looks like that's going to happen regardless. I wonder if Wanda and Vision will still be a thing. I don't know. But of course, as usual, Midnight Wolf, brilliant author. Thank you so much for just writing these, let alone if you've mentioned me or not. I really, really appreciate it. Love you guys, and remember to like, comment and subscribe. Hit that little bell to get notified, and spread the word about this channel so that it can grow. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. See you in chapter 8. Bye.